Thank you for joining us. My name is Cesare Garlati, and I am the co-chair of the Mobile Working Group at the CSA, which is the Cloud Security Alliance. It's a non-profit organization with more than 34,000 members around the world. Can you hear me?
Can you use your microphone, please?
Like this? Can you hear me better? Okay, so Cesare Garlati with the CSA. The panel today is centered around mobility and what it takes really to make, I would say, any employee successful, because these days any employee is really mobile. And we are really fortunate to have such knowledgeable panelists today with us. I will let them introduce themselves in a minute and eventually let you know also what their company is about and what they do for mobility. And in the end, I would really like to leave a good 10-15 minutes for questions. So if you like interactive conversation, I would definitely invite you to stick till the end and have a conversation with us. Open-ended. So this is a framework around what we can talk about, but you will see the conversation probably is going to take many different routes. So please help us make this a success. Anne, you want to start? Introduce yourself. Tell us what Xora is doing in particular with mobile.
Great. My name is Anne Bonaparte. I'm CEO of Xora, and we're a mobile workforce management company that's focused on always mobile workers, folks that don't have an office, like most of you probably do. And turns out there's about 36 million employees out there. And these are folks like home health care nurses, social service workers, folks that distribute and merchandise your beer and chips at the end of the evening. Plumbers, guys that work in your houses, so it's sort of a mix of gray collar, pink collar employees. And what's exciting about what's going on with mobility right now, this is a set of employees that typically has not been served very well by technology. And now with just the tremendous diversity and strength of the devices and providers like Xora, we're able to provide them opportunities for what we offer is a suite of configurable mobile apps that's 100% cloud-based for them to transform that customer experience in place. So taking the inspector from just an inspector and being able to manage him quite effectively, but also turning him into being able to take the order right there on his iPad, get the signature, and really remove the clipboard. So that's our focus. We're based in Mountain View, and we've been around about 10 years.
Hello everybody, I'm Sriram Chakravarti. I'm the Vice President of Engineering and Products at TIBCO. I run our social computing group. For those who don't know TIBCO, we are an enterprise software company. We're crossed $1 billion in sales, so been around the block for a long time. The company started off with a mission of connecting applications together. So our focus is around integration. We are the integration bus company, and all around high-speed messaging and integration. And especially in the last 2 years, my focus has been around enterprise social. We launched our enterprise social product called Tibber about 2 years back. It's been exciting. We have over 1.5 million paid users on the product. Product is accessed by customers on their mobile phone from 100 different countries. Some really large customers who gone ahead and deployed the product for all their employees, whether it be KPMG, whether it be CGI for their 80,000 employees, whether it be Interport Police. So we have some really large enterprises using it. Mobile for us is very, very important. It's essentially becoming an extension of each one of us as a part of our day-to-day life and as a part of our work life. And the interactions on mobile, the experience on mobile, the security aspects, and making sure that companies are getting comfortable exchanging real customer, client information, sensitive information on mobile is becoming even more important. So the ubiquitous access of mobile and making sure that they can collaborate pretty quickly on mobile is a big focus for us. And that's part of my big involvement as well.
Hi, so my name is Peter Price. I'm CEO of a company called Webelo. We provide an infrastructural solution for generating mobile apps from enterprise applications and data. So kind of the opposite from Anne. We're focused on people actually who largely do have offices but are coming to rely more and more on their smartphones and tablets for accessing enterprise applications from companies such as IBM or Microsoft or Oracle or SAP or Salesforce.com, even in-house built custom applications that they've been using for many years on their desktops. Now they want to interact with those on their mobile devices. So Wells Fargo is a customer of ours, and they have executives around the world who interact through Webelo with a CRM system that runs on a SQL Server backend. The National Health Service in the UK has doctors, nurses, administrators using Webelo to interact with their core hospital systems. Even Volkswagen uses it to push sales information out to their sales team about product availability and inventory, and generally how they can access products. Again, all from smartphones and tablets, which of course these users now prefer as their device. And that's been a key focus for us as IT sees a shift from users working on more desktop-oriented systems to now working on smartphones and tablets. How would IT be able to make the transition from existing enterprise applications and data running on those traditional platforms into these new devices without having to rewrite them, recode them? And we plug directly into that existing data. We generate a native interface automatically on the device. All they have to do is download a client from their app store, and we give them that secure bidirectional connection between those two endpoints.
Hi, I'm Leo Tenenblatt. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called AppMesh, and we provide mobile-only application for salespeople. I think we're a little bit different than the other three panelists here in that we are coming at it from a consumer standpoint. We do care about the enterprise, of course, but we're coming in at it from the folks who we believe are the most underserved in terms of the sales organization, who are the reps. So I worked at Salesforce.com for about 6 years, and we saw the managers being very happy with CRM applications, but sales reps being a little frustrated, and so we decided to tackle that piece of the equation. Because mobile devices, like Peter was saying, is more and more the form factor that these guys want to use. They're already using it to communicate with customers on, through email, the phone, bringing it to meetings, and so we integrate with all of those things and bring a unified view of the customer so that they can stay engaged with the customer, keep track of all their information without requiring much work from them, and therefore being able to be more productive and close more sales.
Thank you, very well. So let's start with the first part of the conversation around BYOD, bring your own device. And why I think BYOD is absolutely relevant to this conference is because of this connection in between what's going on in the cloud and what's going on in mobility with regard to BYOD. So I invite you to think to this parallel. Cloud and BYOD, cloud and mobility these days really being like two faces of the same coin. And this coin, to me, is the changing role of corporate IT. If you think at the dynamics around cloud application, cloud services, cloud infrastructure, most of this is not procured directly by corporate IT. Amazon, which plenty of that available, most of their cloud services are actually paid with personal credit cards, not by end users, but by employees who then expense the cloud service. These are line of businesses. Line of business owners that say, you know what, going to corporate IT and getting a traditional corporate IT deployment of SAP, whatever is the situation, just takes too long, and it's not what I really want. I want flexibility, I want autonomy, and by the way, it's so inexpensive these days, I can pay it out of my pocket and get it reimbursed. Instead of waiting 18 months, tomorrow I have my 3,000 salesperson ready to go. Now look at the BYOD phenomenon on the mobile side. Well, it's the same story. It's not the line of business, it's the end user, it's the employee, but they don't want to go through what has been the corporate standard decision for their mobile devices, for the application in their mobile devices. They pick whatever they think will make them productive. They don't wait. Usually employees within organizations don't really like IT folks much, unfortunately. And so instead of asking and probably getting back and no, or you can do it, or you shouldn't do it, they just do it and then expense it. Let's not forget, that most companies reimburse some of the cost of these personal devices. Now, given that we are at a cloud conference, and given that this is the mobile track, I would like to ask to the panelists how BYOD is affecting your own market, your own products, and in particular security being the number one concern when it comes to BYOD. So how BYOD is affecting your offerings, if you see this, and how you address security. Anne, would you like to start?
Sure. Well, definitely we're seeing the BYOD trend, and in some segments it's more dominant than in others. So it depends if the person, their whole job is dependent on using a phone. They're still being offered by corporate, but what we see is we are really embracing the BYOD trend because it really enables flexibility for kind of the device that each person is most comfortable with for the role they have. So, and because of that, makes them more productive. I mean, what the studies have shown that if they're using phones they want to use, whether they procured them themselves, if they're a smartphone or a tablet, which is certainly the preference of choice, now more than 50% of what phones that are sold, versus a feature phone, they're just more likely to take care of it and use it. And so I think that trend actually in the long run will reduce costs in many ways, not just replacement costs, just people tend to take better care of it. And then from a security standpoint, we support over 175 devices across all the carriers. So we have certainly security built in to our applications, but we're also work and collaborate with mobile application management providers and really embrace that too, because we don't do what they do, but anything from our perspective that helps enforce the policies of the corporation and the deployment of the latest version of the apps, it really enables us to make our releases that much easier.
Let me ask specifically, do you have a version for Android of your
Yes.
application?
Mm-hmm.
Android, I read in the news, it's quite exposed to security issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if your application or your solution specifically for Android introduces any add-on security feature, or if you, as a vendor, blindly rely on the platform, or eventually on that additional layer of security that the corporate IT is supposed to put on top of that consumer-grade platform.
Right.
Do you have any partnership
Well,
with MDM vendors, containerization kind of approach?
Well, we're working with a couple of the vendors, Mobile Iron and Zenprise. So when they're deployed, they have many more security features than we do. I do think we're doing some different security elements across the different platforms to stop any exposure we may have. I couldn't actually articulate that myself. I'd have to talk to my CTO, but I would say we probably rely on mobile application management providers to provide the full security, that is required for.
So in this new model where employees bring in their own tools of the trade, you rely on a third party, or your customer relies on a third party.
Yeah, typically they would
level.
deploy MDM or MAM first, and then us, because for them there's a lot more exposure, not really because of our app, but because if they're accessing corporate data like in the vaults.
Let me ask you a provocative question now. Do we have a version for Windows 8?
We don't.
Oh.
We haven't seen
How
the
can it
demand
be?
yet.
So with this massive demand for Windows 8 out there, you don't have a version?
Well, it just could be me, but we haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so second part of this question, you have a version for BlackBerry.
We do, because we have quite a legacy.
You just say the magic word, legacy.
Yeah,
So
but the demand is really pulling to Android and Apple.
Absolutely.
Right.
Sriram, what do you see at TIBCO?
Absolutely. So we are definitely seeing a lot of BYOD, and we did a survey just among our enterprise customers. We have more than 4,000 of them, and I'd say about 80% of them are sort of embraced BYOD in some shape or form or other, right? And what this means is, very, very sort of sets the bar high for us as a vendor, because what it does is, if you think about an organization, especially a large enterprise, a complex organization, where you have, let's take, you have a dock worker who's based in was using a $20 HTC phone, and you're somebody in the boardroom, executive using a $600, the latest version of the iPad, as we're providing solutions and services for our large customers, we got to make sure it works on all these kinds of various devices, right? You asked about BlackBerry. You'd be surprised the number of people, number of our customers, especially who are based in Asia, and with the launch of Z10, asking us for BlackBerry. So we do have support for all
So
these
let me
different,
interrupt you.
different platforms. Yes.
Do you have installation, customer install base on the Playbook?
Not on the Playbook, but on the Z10 and the
so
Q10, which are
BlackBerry is
the.
happening still as a
Yes.
smartphone.
It is happening
What?
more
I
on the
think that
new
It
10.
says a lot about what
It does
is
say.
not happening actually.
It does say a lot of what's not happening, but it does say a few things though. Is it is, depending, if you're a global organization and you're going to embrace a BYOD strategy, there are going to be pockets of employees, whether they're based in Canada or whether they're based wherever, are going to be they're going to be using certain types of devices that they think is sort of, best for them, right?
Absolutely.
And we can be be the Silicon Valley types and say, listen, we just do iPad and iPhones. But if you want to serve real enterprise customers, we cannot, right? We want to be able to provide for the same richness of functionality from latest BlackBerry 10 all the way to more more rich
This is definitely
iPad.
a key point.
Right.
Yeah, cross-platform support.
Exactly.
Because we know that if you put together iOS and Android on a global level, you get what, 70 plus 20 something, 85% of the market. But that 15% that is left out is as important to an
Absolutely.
enterprise buyer than the remaining 85, because or you have a consistent approach to whatever you want to deliver,
Exactly.
or you don't.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, think about it, like, all of us work in teams that are inherently global, right? My team, just take any team, you have like people who work all over the world, right? And you cannot, especially when you're providing for a collaboration software, you cannot say, listen, your BlackBerry guys, sorry, we can't support that, right? So, and it's not just support, it's just beyond that, right? You want to have the same richness, the same native experience on all these platforms as you've had with, the more popular ones.
To the specific of security,
Mhm.
and then we move on
Yeah.
the rest of the
So-
panel. Do you have any specific security add-on, or you rely on the platform, or you rely on third-party products that eventually you partner with?
Right. So security is very, very important to us, and this is actually even more important to us because the way we talk about, the way our customers use our products is primarily not just water cooler type of collaboration types of discussions, but we are actually pulling in feeds and streams from your enterprise applications. Not only can you follow Paul in purchasing, you can actually follow your purchase order. So it's even more important for us to be able to secure this data. So what we have done is, right from day one as we're starting out building the products, is security is paramount. And in fact, in almost any of our large customers, none of the purchasing decisions are made before we have these kinds of detailed security discussions that happen, right? So especially on the mobile platform, I would say there are a few things that are very critical. One is authentication. How are you authenticating? And a lot of enterprises expect to do the same AD, single sign-on type authentication on mobile as it's available on the web. Authorization is important as well. Enterprises have secrets, and we got to protect those secrets, right? You can't have access to all data to everybody. If you're part of the finance team that's doing the quarterly close, it's fairly sensitive information. You can't have everybody else access it. So it's very important for us to protect the data. I'll tell you another example. We have a fairly large customer, and they are discussing, it's probably the largest auditing firm out there. They're discussing client-specific confidential information, right? And now a lot of these people are mobile, so they want to be able to use the mobile app to do it. But what they want to do is they want to give access, but they still want to control it. You can view documents, but you cannot download it because they don't have a way by which you can sort of remotely wipe off this document when people leave. So there are the things that we have done in the basic platform to protect and provide connectivity, but also protect the data and access for these kinds of devices. So we work with several third parties. We also have built and right from the ground up, as we are focused on enterprises and making the product enterprise ready. A lot of these security elements are very, very important to us.
Thank you. And before we move to Peter, do you support Windows 8?
We do have support for Windows 8 in the
RT?
we do support Windows 8 mobile, and the way we do this is we don't have a native app on Windows 8. We do have a web optimized version.
Would love to understand this opportunistic approach, but let's move to Peter. Peter.
Yeah, so let me go back to the sort of the impact that we've seen around BYOD and some of the customers, our customers. The biggest thing that struck me was the shift from focus on the devices and securing those devices to the data. So, if you think back to that BlackBerry world, where the enterprise owned 1,000, 10,000, in some cases, 50,000 or more BlackBerries. They were very concerned about those devices. It was mainly around email and calendar and contacts, and securing those devices and managing those devices. I sat with a major financial institution a couple of weeks ago that had 60,000 BlackBerries, I think, at their peak, and the CIO said to me, they're not interested in MDM anymore. They don't own the devices. They don't care about mobile device management. What they care about is data management. They care about securing the data. And I think that the biggest shift that we've certainly seen is that it's about the data now. It's about applications and a broad range of uses that an individual can do with their enterprise at the back end, whether it's accessing salesforce.com or it's some fully mobile work or whatever type of work that it is that they're doing. They're having to interact with the data, and the corporation is concerned about how to secure that data. What's the focus on securing that data? And you've seen a big transition in the types of what were called MDM platforms, now perhaps known as enterprise mobility management platforms, and they incorporate managing devices, but really what they do is they put a container on the device that secures the data and provides the user either with an isolated way of interacting with the enterprise or some other secure form way of interacting with the enterprise. And it's driving the right thing, in my view, in the enterprise, which is the adoption of applications. You want, you've got the users, they've got those devices, you've invested in that security infrastructure. There's a reason for doing that. It's not just to say, hey, we secured the devices. It's to make your employees productive and allow them to be able to access enterprise applications and data sources. So big shift from just worrying about devices to being really focused on data. To come to your question of the day, we do have a Windows 8 smartphone and tablet and desktop client.
Very good.
And here's the reason, actually, because I don't think I disagree with anyone. We're not exactly seeing zooming sales of this product yet. But there is a reason, and you've only to go, you will know this better than anyone on this panel, you only need to go into the heart of the enterprise, right? You're going to see a lot of legacy stuff there.
Yep.
And you're going to see transition from legacy users, not necessarily easily to the coolest new Android or Apple device. They're going to have to go to something.
Let me wake up a little bit the
Windows-based.
audience, which is getting larger by the minute. So, how many of you have an iOS device? Raise your hand. And that's 25, 30%. How many of you have an Android device? And that's almost entirely. How many of you have a BlackBerry? Okay.
It's kind of
So
embarrassed.
people
to
who
do that.
didn't raise their hands
It's
are
like
on
quiet,
mobile.
yeah.
They
Let's
just
go.
need to wait.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, see, the Z10
Z10.
is caught
Okay,
up.
it's the BlackBerry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
BlackBerry 10.
Very good. So, BlackBerry. With BlackBerry, what I hear more and more happening is something very interesting. You are absolutely right. Companies are disinvesting from renewals because really the BlackBerry relationship is based on a renewal of the overall BlackBerry infrastructure and not just the device. But what happens now is that there are end users who, for whatever reason, really like the device because of the QWERTY keyboard, because of the BB messaging sign, for whatever reason. And they go back to the enterprise still with a BlackBerry, which at this point is no longer an enterprise device. Therefore, is not connected to the best server, to the BlackBerry infrastructure, and therefore not manageable. Very interesting space eventually for people who want to look at that specific niche as it is. So this is BlackBerries brought in by the end users and unmanageable by the enterprise because enterprise doesn't subscribe to the service anymore. Before we run out of time, Leo,
Sure. So, I mean, in terms of BYOD and in terms of, I guess, devices, which we're talking a lot about, our company is I mean, it's a small startup. We've started just about a year ago, and the product was launched just a month ago. So, on the one hand, we don't have a ton of enterprise customers. We don't have any revenue whatsoever, so we don't have to we don't, obviously we have the downside of not having money coming in, but we have the positive piece of it is we don't have to deal with legacy products or devices. And so for us, as we look forward, I mean, for me, it's mostly a two-horse race. And the one that we started with was iOS, because for the folks that we talk to in the enterprise, at least from the sales reps using these devices, it's primarily still iOS. In terms of your question about the security, I should preface it with saying that, you know, our architecture is very different from the traditional cloud model in that we rely a lot on the data being locally on the device so that we can have the best possible experience for these users. And so a lot of the device is local. We use the cloud only as a messaging bus. So messages just get passed back and forth. They don't actually reside there except for just a backup purpose. But for a rep to actually see the data, he has to use a device. There's no direct contact through a browser, so to speak. So it's only on the app on the devices. And so the question about security does come up a little bit, not from the sales rep, but as we talk more to their managers, it does come up. And we think about it in three ways. There's local data, there's personal data, and then there's external data. In terms of the local data, a lot of that stuff is already kind of out there. I mean, you're talking about emails, the call logs, all that stuff. It's sort of out there already. It doesn't make that much sense to put the genie back into the bottle, so to speak. In terms of the local data, it's about accessing data that requires someone's credentials, for example, LinkedIn or your IMAP, things like that. A lot of that actually makes a lot more sense to be locally on the device rather than storing like an OAuth token or something in the cloud. So in that respect, actually, we're a little bit stronger. Obviously, in terms of the external data, we're not doing much yet, so we don't have to worry about that. But it will come into play more and more as we grab that kind of data. We are just using the iOS security for now because, I mean, for the use case that we're focused on, which is the reps, they care more about the productivity than the security of the data. But again, as we talk to their managers, they will care about that piece of it. So we are starting to look forward to how we will do that. We already have a way of wiping out all the data from a person's device, and we'll do
Security is definitely not a proposition for the consumer.
Yeah.
It's mostly about compliance, and therefore it is a proposition for the enterprise. The intriguing situation is when you bring consumer-grade technology, these mobile devices, into an enterprise context where compliance is key, and then see what happens. So what happens is a $2 billion industry as we speak for mobile device management, which is just the tip of the iceberg of what is going to come, which is a whole set of vendors and solutions to support this new model of IT, where you have the corporate IT folks that are asked to secure and manage something that they don't own. Very interesting challenge. Not many vendors out there really are able really to just think in this new way. So we started 5 minutes later, so I think it's fair for us to get 5 minutes back. So we have a good 10 minutes for your questions or for a conversation if you prefer. I don't know if we need a microphone. You probably just speak up and we should be able to hear you. Please.
Yes, so a question for both Peter and Leo. At the beginning, you sort of alluded to users preferring to use their mobile device, right? I assume by that you mean these are not people who are continuously mobile. When they're at their desk, they're obviously prefer their laptop or desktop, but when they get up and leave for a meeting or a trip or whatever, they kind of want to leave the laptop behind. Is that this usage scenario that you're talking about?
You know, kind of, but not exactly, actually. I would go to the point of saying that users prefer using their smartphones and tablets, period. I don't care whether they're sitting at a desk or an airplane or, I was about to say driving their car, but that's not allowed. but you know, I think that's what we're seeing is that definitely they prefer the device. You know, an example we see a lot of, in bigger corporates, sort of mid-sized companies and up certainly, is they have existing enterprise data sources, existing systems that send out a lot of messages. A very common one is workflows, right? So I'm a manager, I get asked to approve things, someone's expenses, someone's purchase requisition, someone's vacation request, whatever it might mean. The idea that they can see that email on their mobile device, but then have to go and log in wherever they are onto a desktop connection to go through that approval process with some existing back-end ERP system or other back-end system, is just not now comfortable for users who are used to doing all their personal stuff on these mobile devices. They should be able to just click that email, run through their approval process and get it done, interacting with whatever back-end systems that are there, irrespective of where they're located. So yeah, we see it now just generally more and more, particularly, as new waves of the workforce come through, they just don't use laptops. I'll go so far as to say they just don't use laptops or desktops at all. They use a tablet or a mobile device.
Yeah, I would say I kind of share what Peter is saying. What we hear is that they, the device that they prefer to use is this one. The only thing that keeps them from using these exclusively is one of two things. Either the app doesn't support what they want to do, or they're writing a long email or something that requires a keyboard, in which case, it's more comfortable to do it on a laptop or a desktop. But other than that, I think the only thing keeping them from doing it is really just the applications. There's sort of two classes of applications that we're seeing out there in migrating to mobile. Ones are ones that are sort of adapting something that was made for the web to the mobile device, and that's not working too well. But if you get an application that's really rethinking the experience for what these devices are good at, which is using all the sensors and all the contextual information to give a great experience for the user, there's no question that they move over very, very quickly, because it's just faster to do things, it's more intuitive. The device is lighter, you can carry it all around, and so we are definitely seeing that trend. I don't know if it's certain classes of users, and because we're talking more to salespeople, that's coming up more. But I think, overall, it tends to be a little bit more of a trend that people want to really just get rid of things, of the laptop for these devices.
I think we have time for one more question, but if you need to move to a next section or something, please feel free to leave any time. Any other questions?
I want to follow up on this, but go ahead. So, PC lifecycle management solutions have lots of tools that you can use for remote help and help desk stuff and all these things that don't really exist yet in the MDM space. So just wondering if you guys see that as the entire decision for deploying mobile devices moves from line of business to the CIO, do you see that as more of a barrier than what the user experience type of stuff that you guys were just talking about, or the user preference, especially as like we're talking about Fortune 1000 and some of these larger companies, which is more of a problem for you?
From my perspective, my experience, this whole enterprise mobility management space has become infrastructure. It's almost, I'm going to say it's almost commodity, and kind of works out the box. It plugs in. There's a slew of vendors out there. Every major vendor, you read a new announcement every couple of weeks that some new vendors brought in their enterprise mobility management suite. I think it's starting to incorporate a lot more of the traditional, desktop PC computing management suites. Again, I see it with a different angle, more towards the app than the physical device itself. But my perspective is the out-of-the-box nature of it makes it prevalent in all these companies.
I think Peter made a great point before, which is, and that's definitely what I see out there, speaking with literally thousands of professionals who deal with this every day. The focus is definitely shifting from the device to the data. Your questions about system management. System management as a category was developed really to update patches on Windows systems owned by the enterprise. The whole category started like that with Altiris and company. These days, when the IT organization doesn't own the device, and in fact, should be very careful what they do to the device, because they can run into privacy and liability issues if they manage something that they're not supposed to. The focus is definitely rapidly shifting to protecting that data, the corporate data on that device. You are absolutely right. MDM as a category is a commodity. Anyone can write an MDM server to connect to an Android API or an iOS. But protecting the data with application wrapping or in many other innovative ways is definitely something hot, both in terms of investments and, really new products and companies dealing with that. Okay, so I don't see anyone else coming in. So if you have a final question, because I saw another hand raised.
Can I go back
There.
to the mobile issue here? The answers you gave strike me as very odd, because I have a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, and a phone, and I use them all the time. If I'm a sales guy, or if I'm a manager who just does email most of the time, or just reads things, then yeah, phone and tablet are great. But like here today, I have 3 of them with me. I will always take notes on this if I can, because the keyboard is full. I spend half my life in front of my desktop writing documents, doing PowerPoint, doing Excel. And enterprises, those are fundamentally people do when they're sitting at their desk. Not mobile workers or out in the field, but the guys sitting somewhere. I'm puzzled by the belief that that market won't grow as much, but it's going to be a huge market for a long time. I'm puzzled by that. What am I missing?
So I think it kind of depends on the type of work you do. If you are really about consuming applications, or it makes a lot of sense. If you're a manager, I think it kind of there are some aspects of your work where you really need to work on PowerPoint presentations or Excel, and that I think it'll be a long time before it comes to this device. But for the sales rep, a lot of what they do is talking to people. And for talking to people, even taking like small notes, because a lot of what these guys do is take very, like it's mostly about action items.
And I don't dispute that.
Yeah.
Right? Either of your scenarios, I don't dispute either of your scenarios.
Yeah.
My point is there are lots of other scenarios
Sure.
for which neither phone nor tablet are appropriate.
But I think the piece that's missing are the apps. And I think what you'll start to see with these devices that are more capable in terms of sensors and more intuitive in terms of the UI, that once people start building applications that use all those things, things will start to shift. The example I always give is Zillow. So Zillow is one application, or real estate apps in general, is one where if I'm sitting in front of my desktop, I will prefer to use this device, always, because it's much easier to filter data, and it has the location kind of built into the application. And so it's much more intuitive to circle the area that I want to buy a house in and filter and just see the results as I swipe. Doing that on a desktop is not quite the same, because there's a couple more levels of abstraction in terms of interfacing with the data. And so I think the apps are not there yet. And so you'll see some use cases change as and if vendors focus more on building the apps for these devices. That's my thinking.
I do think that a lot of it's still infancy. A lot of usability on the mobile apps is going to change in how people interact and consume and create content on mobile devices, right? I think one of the earlier, even responding to someone's earlier questions, what we are seeing is, there is the security aspect of things, but there's more and more we are seeing enterprise users and want the same, what I would like to call as like the Sunday evening experience in their Monday morning workplace, right? The same ease of use and usability. And once we start seeing these enterprise apps reach that level of usability, you're definitely going to see it, right? You're definitely going to see if I'm able to accomplish a lot of what I can do sitting with my tablet, or even when I go to meetings nowadays, I see most of them on their iPads then using their laptops. You're going to see more and more of these kinds of actions translate into mobile devices, things people doing it on mobile.
I don't think you can ignore the transformation of the workforce as well as an aspect of this. I mean, so look, I'm the old guy in the room here, right? On my desk, I got the biggest monitor you can fit on the desk, and I got a big keyboard and a mouse. That's just the way I work. I'll always work like that. But my youngest 17-year-old daughter just got into college. She doesn't want a new laptop to go to college. She wants a tablet device and a new smartphone. My middle daughter's laptop broke down for a month this past month. She wasn't screaming about getting it fixed. She's got a tablet device.
Hey, Peter, how old
Yeah.
are your kids?
So 17, 21, and 25. The 25-year-old, she's right on that edge. We talk about this a lot. She can't live without her laptop. She's used to using it. But I think there's a transition happening, and it is about the apps. I absolutely believe that. If you grow up in an environment where you're used to just doing things that work very easily on these devices, that's what you want. You don't want some hefty SAP system that was built for everybody in the company trying to satisfy all their needs. You want little apps that do things for you, and that's much more the direction we're going in.
And to wrap this up, so my son is 11. He has any kind of possible electronic device, tablet, phones, video game, any kind of console for the graduation. he asked me, graduation gift, a laptop.
Uh-huh.
And I said, what am I going to do with a laptop? And he says, guess what? So there is a game that runs only on laptops.
See, it's the
Okay,
apps.
the
it's
app.
called Minecraft.
It's the
Okay,
apps.
so to him, the laptop is no different than a game console that just has this proprietary game, which is called Minecraft. And so he wants the laptop to run Minecraft.
That's a very expensive game.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so thank you for your interest and for staying till the end. So I think this has been very interesting. I'll be here for a few more minutes if you want to continue the conversation outside. I cannot guarantee the presence of the panelists, but if they're here, I'm sure they eventually will be happy to interact with you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.